Namo myoho renge kyo, namo myoho renge kyo, namo myoho renge kyo. Hi, friends. I hope this finds you in good health and secure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Analogies. I come up with them on the fly. The ones that I've repeated the most, or that I've used the most, or put in books the most. I've yet again in Buddhism reference this book. I don't have a huge collection, but I think there's just 3 in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've got 4 on 4 different aspects of our practice. So they're the common ones that I've used, but I've included them in the book just as additional material, as a reminder if they're useful. The first one is attachment. And I came up with this one not too long ago, trying to explain this to someone yet again. I have videos on attachment. If you use the little magnifying glass search next to the, in the middle of the home page on the channel, not the top search, that's all of YouTube. But if you go to the home page, you click on the icon or whatever, go to the home page of Threefold Lotus Kuum on YouTube. You'll see in the middle of the page that menu. It says playlists and videos and podcasts, and shorts and about. And usually, because that menu has so many options, it's depending on your screen resolution, the whole menu might not show. You might have to scroll the menu, but at the end of that menu, there's a little magnifying glass, and that search is within the channel. And, there's hundreds and hundreds of videos on this channel. So to look up a specific keyword or what a video or a few videos might talk about a certain subject or keyword, much easier to find that way than scrolling through, or even in playlists, right? Playlists are handy because they focus on a series of videos on one subject, a sutra, the Go shows, so on and so forth. But if you do a search on analogies, or not analogies, Sylvain, attachment, you will find a few videos, not that many. Some will be Go shows, some will be others. But I've done some videos solely on attachment. And so you can look those videos up yourself. But this is an analogy. It's not in those videos because I did those a while back. And this one I called Collecting Seashells. And I thought it kind of pointed to attachment. Now that I read it, we'll see if I still think so. Collecting seashells along the shore of a large body of water is either a personal experience or one easily assimilated from movies, books, or stories like this one, right? The point of this analogy is the actual act of collecting. Now, that might not really mean anything to you, but it will as we go on. It could be that you collect stamps. Maybe you collect books, cars, baseballs, or simple trivia, and even analogies, right? I hope you can use the seashells as a proxy for whatever behavior of collecting sparks your insight, okay? Walking along a seashore, we can witness a child holding a plastic bucket and stopping from time to time to pick up, analyze, and either drop or collect in her bucket a specimen of her liking, right? Collecting seashells. After a while, the child returns to a parent, or older brother or sister, whatever, a guardian, to ask for an additional bucket. Can I have another bucket? The parent might say, well, don't you think you've had quite enough? It's a full bucket of seashells. Why do you want another bucket? Come on, try to be reasonable, right? To which the child responds, I know, but there's more. Can I have another bucket? And as parents are wont to do, either that's a point of exemplar discipline and the child forgets about it in 5 minutes anyway, or you just acquiesce, right? We might be tempted to see the child's behavior as evidence of attachment or clinging, right? How many of you thought, oh, well, that's obvious, that's attachment, right? To the beauty of the seashells, that she wants more seashells, right? There's more out there. I need to collect them. They're beautiful, right? But this would be incorrect. And so many of you might just be going, what? How is that incorrect? That's exactly attachment. So let's dig a little deeper. Once the child found and analyzed her first and perhaps second shell, the thrill and the curiosity of her find was already quite faded and replaced by the act of finding and collecting, as though this action would indemnify her against ever losing this feeling of satisfaction. I'm going to read that sentence again, because I want you to notice, even though I don't say it here, this is the process of identification. That's where we are really discussing the subject of clinging, craving, attachment. Those three words are like three aspects of the same thing, right? You find the seashell, it's beautiful, you're enamored by it, it's kind of a shock and a surprise, and wow, the wow factor, right? And the moment that happens, you feel connected, attached. Then you put it in your bucket, and the moment you start searching for another one, you're trying to find again that same feeling. It's already not about the seashells. Do you see what I'm pointing out here? It's about ownership. It's about that thrill that I experience, that identification, that construction of selfness, right? When you perceive that kind of a wow moment, you want to keep having it. Call it dopamine rush, call it whatever you like. But that's what we're chasing. That's the clinging. More. Possess that. Right? It's not about the seashell. But the seashell provided it, so I want more seashells. We do this with everything, right? Remember that first time you tasted, bacon? You'll search the world for that taste again, that feeling again. And you'll often approximate it. But what you're really enjoying isn't so much the bacon, but the feeling the bacon gives you, or that's the way we perceive it anyway, right? It's an important distinction as we understand karma and what it is that we're trying to alter with our practice of Buddhism. It's one thing to know the joy of the senses. It's another thing to crave those particular moments, events, yes? So what replaces her wow moment is now being molded into a behavior. The finding and the collecting, it leads to this feeling. So that's what's important. That, my friends, is samsara. That's the thinking process we call samsara. It's the attaching for the rush, the clinging that we want to maintain, own, possess, because it identifies who we think we are, our experience of me and the world around me, which is only validating me. Identification. This satisfaction is self-referential in that it acts as a self-realization or identity qualifier. I am a collector. I am special and unique because I collect nice things, the child thinks to herself, or maybe not out loud, but that's what's going on. This complex process of identification and the energy committed to it is what Buddhism labels attachment. Attachment not to the collection or the items in it. See, that's the biggest mistake we make. I'm crying because somebody stole my guitar. I'm so attached to that guitar. Perhaps. But what you're really attached to is the sensations that you feel that identify your sense of being when you hold it, play it, string it, on and on. See, that's a subtlety we always miss. Samsara doesn't care about that. It just cares about the things. It misses the point. Rather, the attachment is to the identification of self as the progenitor of collecting. In this regard, it may be closer to the act of clinging, right? But the result is the same. Like a gambler who cares nothing about the money, but instead is all about winning. The gambler wants to be a winner. A winner, not a cash hoarder, a winner. Attachment is not about things. It is about identity. Is that a helpful analogy? We'll just do, there's only 4, so we'll do all 4 analogies, okay? The next one falls under the rubric of enlightenment. And I use here, maybe I should keep these separate. They're not that long. What was that? That was only 10 minutes. The rolling snowball. That's also a recent one. The old stories of a rolling snowball coming down a large snow-covered mountain, growing ever larger as it rolls, is used in a different way here to demonstrate 2 different Buddhist concepts. On the one hand, the momentum of the snowball as it continuously grows by collecting more snow is, do you see the word drops in here? The momentum of the snowball continuously grows by collecting more snow is analogous to our samsaric karma, collecting influences and growing a vast database of identification. You see? This collection of identity is the samsaric mind itself, rolling around within the ever-growing snowball, trapped in its boundaries and momentum. The identity of the snowball. I mean, the snowball, as it grows, has that identity. The snowball grows, but still snowball. You don't call it by a different name just because it's growing. It's an effect of its collecting more snow, its momentum to collect more snow. See the analogy to human life, to karma? On the other hand, and in stark contrast to the snowball and its mind state of samsara, the Buddha mind state stands outside of the snowball entirely as observer and compassionate wisdom. It may still say I, but it's not in the snowball. So it's observing its collection of karma and momentum. Wow, look at me go. Look at me grow. Look at that momentum. But it's not rolling around and bounced around and affected via the spinning and the speed and the collecting. It's just observing. In this analogy, the marked difference between the rolling turmoil of the rolling snowball, constantly in a state of unrest and collecting new influences of the samsaric mind, versus the serenity and unattached mind of Buddha, to clearly witness the drama unfolding with compassion and ready influence to assist in assuaging and mollifying the effects of the samsaric turmoil. Both are witness to the turmoil of samsara, but as one is swept away by it, the Buddha is calmly concerned only in preparing to assist recovery and removal, liberation, if you will, from it. Samsara, Buddha. Both are mind's state. That's the snowball analogy. This is what we're trying to maintain when we awaken our Buddha mind, our Gohonzon mind of the Buddha experience. All right. The next one is the fountain analogy. You guys, many of you may be familiar with. This is simply a discussion of samsara and how our mind works in the samsaric environment. Samsara is a complex assembly of layers upon layers of experiences and attachment, habit energy, and influences shaping our perception from moment to moment. Right? 3,000 realms. In other words, this means that you might experience something one day and a week later with a friend, you may have a complete change in your opinion or experience of that same thing due only to the friend's opinion or experience on that day. We think we're solid, but we're so like the wind doesn't change as much as our mind does, yeah? Examples of this are incalculable and they're constant. You can see epistemology in this book. That might give you a different insight on that. In this analogy, we begin with a group of 10 people seated in a room with an organizer and an interviewer. The 10 people are all instructed to take a short walk around an adjacent park and follow a paved path to ensure that each person takes the same route. Each person in the group would leave the room 10 minutes apart from the previous person to ensure each would have their own unique experience. Upon completion of their walks and return to the room, instructed not to talk to one another, each person would be ushered into a separate, closed room to be interviewed about their experience. Right? We're being really meticulous here about capturing these experiences. After all 10 persons have completed their walks and returned and sequestered into separate rooms, the interviewer entered each room and asked only one question of each person. The question was, quote, "Please describe the fountain." As you may have already guessed, the answers were as varied as the people. In fact, some did not recall a fountain at all. Some descriptions were detailed and included several birds of different species bathing in the bottom pool, while others remembered mostly the sound of falling water from an upper level, or was it two? We might be tempted to say that some people are simply more observant than others. However, this would be an erroneous assumption. A better evaluation might have included additional questions such as descriptions of foliage, architecture, traffic, skyline, etc. With these descriptions, we might find that observational skills are related to the specific observer and their priority of attention. Perhaps their chosen careers could shed light on their tendencies and the parameters they use in their observations, the filters, quote unquote, they have each built over time, and their habit energy or tendencies and conditions. And here is where we get closer to the heart of the matter. Each of us builds our experience of the world from the vast interconnections and value judgment we made over our entire lifetime, however long that is. This exercise points to the fact that we are quite unaware of a great deal of available experience all around us as we navigate this world through a complex lens of blinders and focus points we have determined necessary for our navigation of the world and our identity of self within it. This is the trap of samsara. In Buddhism, this samsaric narrowing of experience is indicated as attachment to the identity forming ideas of a self. It is this self as the limited experience of our potential, requiring constant maintenance, that precipitates our anxieties, confusion, dis-ease, and stress. There are a great many names or labels given to this condition of humanity, As in the earlier analogy of the snowball, the samsaric condition is a small subset of our full potential and has labels like the Avicii hell, or the hell of incessant suffering, or simply samsara. To understand this concept can be helpful in our study as we encounter its many expressions and uses in the scholarship of Buddhism. And that's the analogy in the book. I would maybe add examples of those different careers that I mentioned. What if you could imagine one person walking through the path who's a gardener versus another person who is a word processor at a big corporate concern working with creating books and so forth all the time. And then maybe there's a student of architecture. And I would put it to you that student of architecture could miss that fountain. Not that architects don't think about fountains, but might be, and I'm thinking in my mind here of the great Central Park in Manhattan, might be completely glued to the landscape of the skies, of the skyline and the buildings, identifying years of architecture and styles and so forth, as he walked or she walked around the path and totally missed the fountain. You see how we parameterize our identities? So I thought that might be a useful, helpful reminder of what we mean by samsara, right? It's not a place, it's a constructed arena of being, okay? And the last one it's kind of a short one, but I think the meaning of this one will become very clear very quickly. It's the picket fence analogy, and I've referenced it several times in videos, and it's really about time or the perception of time. And time is a perception, so it gets redundant. Anyway, the picket fence, 5 bullet points. Not sure why I did that. Oh, because of time. A measured or measurable period, a continuum that lacks spatial dimensions. We grew up hearing that time and space are interchangeable, but neither one of them truly exists. They're systems of perceptions, of measurement, yeah? And time really lacks any spatial dimension. It's a strange thing. Number 2, time is of a philosophical interest, and it's also the subject of mathematical and scientific investigation. Okay, doesn't really say a whole lot, but time appears to be more puzzling than space because it seems to flow or pass, or else people seem to advance through it. But the passage or advance seems to be unintelligible. We just make these markers to help us try to make sense of it, yeah? The question of how many seconds per second time flows or one advances through it is obviously an absurd one, for it suggests that the flow or advance comprises a rate of change with respect to something else. See, this is the conundrum of time, and you'll understand that in a few moments. Time is a construct of the human mind in its constant activity of discriminations and identification. Once again. So what do I mean by all that? And this is coming from the great internet of knowledge, yeah? But this is coming from me. Time is a measurement of human experience perceived and used by humans to define our experience of momentum. In this regard, I find the old story of the picket fence a useful mental experiment. Suppose that you're waiting on a friend to ready for a trip. You choose to wait outside of your friend's home, and in one case, you choose to sit and wait on a garden bench for about 5 minutes. The time goes by fairly quickly, affected only by your anticipation. That wait almost completely, the wait, that is W-A-I-T, almost completely disappears from your mind as your friend exits his home and joins you for the trip. Right? Maybe you're focusing on butterflies and the sound of birds and so forth, and you're like, come on, let's go. And the moment you see your friend coming out, or you hear the front door open and your friend's coming out to join you, it's like 5 minutes it's almost gone, right? Now consider a different scenario. Your friend enters the home and you're instructed to wait while sitting on a new picket fence. The same 5 minutes go by and the seconds tick by painfully slow. By the time your friend emerges from his home, your experience of time has lengthened the 5 minutes into an endless period of suffering and not to be soon forgotten. Man, my butt I can't believe these things are sharp. Man, you made me wait. I don't think I can feel my left foot. Why'd you make me wait on that picket fence? God, look, I don't think I will. Let's go. Damn, that's going to hurt all day, right? In both scenarios, the time, quote unquote, is the same as we mark it on a clock, but the experience of the time is vastly different. Time, for all its seeming presence in our lives, is an incredibly fluid concept, describing experience rather than anything determinate. Just as all things of samsara, it is a construct of the mind. That's really, really important to understand when we read these old lessons and sermons from the sutras. That when we're talking about lifetime after lifetime, we're only talking about moments. Moments where things can change radically from one to another. That's why I keep reminding us. Life is a moment-to-moment instantiation of rebirth, right? Birth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death. We keep reinstantiating our freight train of karma, albeit with the little bit of influences we gain from that moment. The influences of our chanting, the influences of our bodhisattva behavior, the influences of good friends, and of course, the opposites, yes? Are we gaining more negativity or positivity? Are we gaining more life affirmation and huger experience of the life, the engine of life? Or are we denying our full potential and rutting ourselves into samsaric habits? So it's a very relevant concept, this concept of time, and it runs throughout, dare I say, the timeline of Buddhism. Yeah, certainly in every lesson Shakyamuni talks about. So that's it for the analogies. The next one, Buddhist hyperbole and non-specific words and terms. That's going to be a short one. And then we'll have non-Buddhist words to really avoid, or at least understand that they're misleading. So we'll go through that next time. I'll probably divide it into different videos. In the meantime, I didn't go too long this time. I hope you enjoy those analogies. You make use of them. They bring you insights. And if you can take just a second or two to like and subscribe, it's a bodhisattva act in that it helps the algorithms provide this resource for more people, and it grows our sangha. Yeah, propagation. That's what we're here for. And if they're helpful, it's the only measure of support, other than your participation, of course, in your practice. Get an ebook. If this ebook, if nothing else, as a reference, right? Or get it in print. You can get it either way. Threefoldlotus.com, lots of free information. The podcasts are free. Make use of these resources. Keep your confidence high. Keep your practice strong. Be kind to yourself. Take care of your health. Love yourself. Yeah, it's not a taboo. And all of those around you. As to the best of your ability, right? And I'll see you in the next one. All right, take care of yourself. Bye for now.